What up, Rockets fans? Oh man, we are back. Uh, Jalen Green videos out. If you missed it, you can always check it out in the playlist.
Word.
Alperen Sengun time, the fan favorite.
The fan favorite.
We don't hate him here. We are very critical of our all of the players on the team, and um, we like to tell players' faults. Which you can be mad at us, but Ime Udoka said it also.
Word.
Sengun, offensively, for what he can do, amazing. Amazing young talent. You got him as a steal in the draft. Now, not shooting the three, still terrible. Some defensive
Defense.
problems,
Terrible.
terrible.
The funny thing is I have more confidence in Sengun playing defense on the perimeter than in the paint.
Yeah.
Because he'll give the effort on the perimeter, move his feet. He gets in the paint. He don't know what the fuck to do.
And do you think?
I would trade. I would shop him personally, but that's just me. Only because I feel like, for one, whatever you get, it'll be such good value out of just that pick and its origins. Because like you got it from OKC, you found the gem in Sengun. The league loves him. The problem is half our fan base don't want to admit he just don't fit the team. I look at Sengun and I'm like, all right, you're the centerpiece, probably of a good trade package I could put together.
In my gut of, oh man, like wanting to make trades, he's the perfect player for me to make a trade for. Like,
Because people look at him with sparkle in their eyes.
yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're looking at Joker and they're looking at Luca and they're like, oh, we want that Euro white boy. It's like, all right, I got one. What you got? You
yeah,
know. Now it does scare me a little bit to think he'd not be on the team because we do run a lot of offense through him.
yeah.
So it
And
kind of makes me wonder whose game it would affect if he didn't make their job easier.
yeah, because there was a moment for when Jalen was struggling. Shingun was pretty much who we ran the offense through, and he led. I mean, there was some clutch moments he had for sure. He would come down in the paint. I mean, he cooked Shed up that one game.
Mm-hmm.
He went at a few other big men and all that stuff. He gets praised by a lot of the big men also. Shaq, Charles Barkley, all the old schools. They like him. I mean, we've said it. There's a lot to like about Shingun, but there's also a lot that we on Bayou City Boys question of how does it fit Ime's system.
Yeah, that's the thing is this is system fit to me. It
Yeah,
really is. That's all it comes down to because let's just be real. We've seen how good the team was without you at the end of last year.
yeah,
Everybody kind of did well. I mean, there was some players whose numbers dropped off a little bit. Because, so, for instance, like Amen did really well even though you were gone, but he does even better with Sengun there because he cleans up a lot of Sengun shit.
yeah.
So, like, there's give and take to it. But also, again, I see value in you, and I would structure a package around Sengun to see if I can get a player, especially if I got number three sitting there.
I mean, you have an option now with him the same way with Jalen. You have max contract, a little less than his because Jalen was number two, of course. You got him for cheaper, but do you want to pay him? Do you want to keep him long term? How are you doing it? And then if you trade him, what are you trading him for? In a sense
So
of,
here's the question: is a year after you pay them fools, you got to pay Jabari.
yes,
So the real question is do you trade Sengun or Jalen, or do you trade Shagun or Jabari? So if you trade Sengun, then that means I need to apply pressure to Jabari to kind of do what he was doing. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
you can't just be a dude who gets 12 points on bullshit. You have to come out and try to put up 20 every night. You know?
yeah. Because somebody's going to be the odd man out. One of the
It,
two from that year or Jabari from the second year. Like,
yes.
one of those are going to be the odd man out. And it's,
We're still fucked because Tari was a first round pick.
yeah, I know. It's the only problem with having a lot of young guys.
Especially when three of them are real power forwards.
Yeah, that's where I always feel like the big six that they always talk about, nobody's going to be touched or whatever, and I could believe that for the beginning of the season. I mean, you want to feel what you got, you want to see how if they can make it work and all that stuff. But as the season goes on, if you start to really understand, like, hey, this is not is going to work out. Too many people are in the way. Too many people need to be moved. This is when you might start getting these phone calls. But then you look at what we have now, that third pick, which is it's not a strong draft, but people that are hitting restart, they want that third pick. They can get a if they hit the mark, they can get a quality player, maybe a star, maybe an all-star, right there with that pick. That
But
reach is
I
still so
I'm kind
open.
of can't get my mind off of the Devin Booker idea because that team could use a player and a pick because they need depth. They need talent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Phoenix would be fucking foolish to turn down a trade of Sengun and number three for Devin Booker. That's what I'm thinking.
So if you get Devin Booker, where he fit on the team?
He's gonna be my two guard, and I'm gonna move Jalen to the three, Jabari to the four. I'm gonna start Steven Adams at the five and Van Vliet at the one because Devin Booker and Jalen, in theory, should both be big enough to switch everything. Like they should be able to guard any wing. Uh, we crowned fucking Jabari the locksmith. What the fuck was his name?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like our defense should still be really good. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You got a man, you got Cam, you got Tari, you got Landale coming off the bench,
It's an Shingun gives you a lot of
and
confidence.
Brooks coming off the bench.
Yeah,
Like that is a strong fucking lineup right there.
it really is actually. I mean, if you were gonna keep him, where do you
That's the thing. What do you do with him?
exactly what my point is? You have Steven Adams coming in. You
Yes.
have Jock Landale that played really well.
All right,
Um,
let's put players in positions we know they'll be for sure. So like your starting five, you have Steven Adams has to be the center.
yes,
Van Vliet has to be your point.
yes,
Jalen will probably be your two. All right. So that leaves Dylan Brooks, Jabari, Sengun, Tari, which I don't suspect he'll ever start on the Rockets anyway. For the three and the four, I have a feeling what they would do is put Dylan Brooks at the three, Sengun at the four, Adams at the five, Jabari comes off the bench in hopes that Dylan Brooks and Steven Adams' defense combined will cover up for what Sengun can't do.
and that could be something they're looking at for sure. I mean, when you got Steven Adams, they said it was for next season. Which, if you've seen Steven Adams, he's a guy that doesn't take no shit. He protects his players, but also he's pretty much out there for defense, rebounds, and occasional shots, which then leaves the floor open for Shingun to do his magic of his skull of fucking ice cream scoops and all his.
Not to mention, I believe Steven Adams would probably thrive off of Sengun's ugly shit because he's an amazing offensive rebounder. So, I mean, that's a good thing. It's
Yeah,
probably the reason they went to get him. They're like, hey, go get somebody who can get a fucking offensive rebound.
because I mean,
In the most respectful way, I would trade Sengun if it's worth it. Like, he'd be my first player to trade. But
yeah,
again, it has to be for a good enough upgrade because we have enough good talent on the team to put up a good 10-man lineup every night.
yeah, and it's one of the things where it's like we're not saying, oh, you got to trade him, but if
Yes.
somebody's like, hey, I really want this guy, I'll give you this. You might have to listen to it because we said the same thing with the Jalen video. We love him. But if
Mm-hmm.
somebody comes calling and they're like, "Hey, I really want this guy. I'll give you this," and hey, that's gonna help the team out. Might have to listen to it because
Like you do some bullshit where you're talking about like fucking trading with Portland for Brogdon and them jokers. Like, no, don't do that. Like
yeah,
that. Don't do no shit like that. I want a superstar in
yeah,
here.
and it comes down to also like you said in the last video, they may be looking at Boston, they may be looking at Denver, they may be looking at Milwaukee and being like, "Hey, we're gonna keep this together and see what happens." Because this is the year that we can do it, but we need to upgrade all this extra stuff around these two guys. Like you said, Steven Adams, he can help on the offensive side. Fred Van Vliet, he helps Jalen Green because when Jalen Green was playing point guard, he struggled massively.
See what I haven't heard anybody talk about like the basketball system in itself. Like Houston was at its best when Sengun was hurt because you were getting real play, defensive play from the center at the rim. We were defending the rim, rebounding, and pushing. We were really fucking fast without Sengun. So as long as the ball don't stick with him, we'll be fine,
Yeah.
even with him.
And it's going to be one of those things where I'm pretty sure email will be like, hey, this is how we're going to run this. You're either in or you're out. And like we've said, he's not afraid to sit you if you're not listening or if you're not putting the effort, like you said, into his system.
There's just two things that always stick in my head when I think about players like Sengun. Is Bill Belichick, the greatest football coach to ever live, he said, trade a player a year too early, not a year too late. You get more for him. And I always think about that in basketball. And then I look at players who are like also on the move in the NBA, like Vucevic from the Bulls. I was like, man, it sure feels like they thought he was going to be something one day too. Like, I don't want to be looking 5 years down the road talking about, fuck, what can I get for Sengun now?
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
we've seen players that have come and they look amazing. Luca, Joker, stuff. And then you've had your players that they look great on your team, but in hindsight, they're not. I mean, they're
Well,
not.
that's the thing. When we talk about basketball, I always say I feel like a majority of the Euro players, when they come to the league, they're pretty refined, but they don't really expand their bag. Like, they're just really good at what they do, so they're close to their top potential when they get here. And I always question that about him. I was like, I haven't seen you incorporate anything new other than that little push shot. Your defense hasn't got better. You still don't shoot the open three. You're not confident in it. It's like you have two off seasons to figure that shit out. I'll give you one more to see if
Yeah,
you clean it up. You know what I mean?
yeah. I don't want to see Ime running across the court, being like, "Shoot the damn ball again." Like I don't
Yeah, I
want
don't
to
want
see
to
that.
hear the bench hollering that shit either. Shoot the ball,
Yeah,
because that's letting the other team know that you're not confident. Your team
yeah,
ain't even confident in you.
yeah. And it hurts them because they're like, "Oh, leave that guy open. He's good." And it's one of those things though. Like I'm gonna. All right. Do you think he's on the team by the start of the season?
I do.
I feel like him and Jalen, like we said in the last video, they're going to be on this team the beginning. Those are going to be the two for sure where they're like, all right, what do we have out of you? But it's also like, all right, like there's a magnifying glass. The same way we have a magnifying glass on Jalen, are you going to come in ready to go, not come in March ready to go? Or are you going to, and Shingun, what have you changed differently? Oh, what you do, like you said, the bag you do is great, but we just saw Luca get clamped up for not being
Mm-hmm.
able to expand his game, and his game's expanded. He has a legit bag, but it's just like when it comes down to it, especially in playoff games, your stars lead your team. So, do you have a
Mm-hmm.
big enough bag, and Jalen have a big enough bag to lead your team in a
I
tournament?
think Jalen does.
Yeah,
I think he's got one of the more underrated bags in the entire league. Like with handle, his move. I think Jalen. Well, Sengun also. Like, see, the problem is he never had to play with the veteran center really.
yeah,
And even now, he's got veteran centers who are defensive minded. Like, he hasn't had that offensive dude to check his ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, bitch, do you realize how many more moves you can get off of consistently shooting a 3 pointer? Go in or not, you can work off of a pump fake. You know what I'm saying?
yep,
Pump fake into a one dribble shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, if he stole a lot of, because of the way people play him now, he could steal a lot of the moves that KD does at the 3 point line and probably score like 6 more points a game.
true, very true.
That's the thing is like I want to see get him a leader, like get him an accountability coach, get him an OG something, preferably of the black uh, heritage, and see what happens.
I mean, we're gonna see. We're gonna see for sure. There's a lot of questions. Sangoon, glad you didn't get injured crazily. Hope you make it back ready. It looks like you are. You've been doing boxing and all this other stuff to condition. Work on your three. Work on your defense. Let's see
Yes,
what you got. Uh,
yes,
Rockets fans, you made it to this point, like video, comment down below. Let us know what you think. I know there's gonna be a lot of y'all mad at us saying just because we said trade him, but it's fine.
if it's worth it,
Yes.
if it's worth it, if need
Same
be,
thing about Jalen.
yes.
But other than that, Rockets fans, we out. Much love. Later.